This is my vermicompost system. The top is just a lid. I attached it to the lower piece in 2 places, just using little carabiners. This kind of acts as a hinge. You could use something else, but I had those. And it just kind of holds the lid in place, so if it's windy, it won't fly away. But I can still open it, and it won't go anywhere. So I fill this with, if this is just shredding from junk mail, food scraps. There's a little bit of like green onion or something, I don't know, something from the kitchen in here. There's lots of things growing, as you can see, because it's really, really healthy. What they've already eaten is really healthy soil. So this is almost ready to go into the garden. I'll wait for them to break some of this other stuff down, or I'll move it into a new tray. So I'll pull some of this back. You can see all the worms in there, cruising around, eating, doing their thing. So that's the top layer. Close the lid here and pull this off. So here's the next tray. Obviously fully broken down. There's lots of worms in there still, cruising around, eating what little scraps are still in there. There's still a little bit of something, some kind of food. I don't know, apple core, I think? Yeah, looks like an apple core. Maybe a green tomato, because I don't really eat apples. So anyway, you can obviously see there's worms in there cruising around still, but this is ready to either go. Sometimes I give it to the chickens, sometimes I put it directly into the compost pile. Sometimes I put it directly into the garden. It doesn't really matter, because ultimately the things from the compost pile and things from the chicken run basically wind up in the raised beds anyway. So whether this goes directly in there or it takes a roundabout way to get there, it all ends up in the same place. So let me put this, take this tray off, and I'll show you the third tray. The bottom one right now, I don't have any food in. In the winter, because it rains a little bit, this is under the eaves of the house, which keeps some of the rain off of it, obviously, but rain does kind of blow down sideways. So in the winter, and if I have a lot of things in the bottom tray, I just have to be really cognizant to take stuff out or the worms will drown. They don't have anywhere to go, and once they get down into the water, and they just drown in there. So it just doesn't do me any good to have things in the bottom tray if I let it get all wet. The worms can't do their job, and it will just like breed insects, other types of insects that I don't really want. So this tray also comes out, and it does have holes in it, so things can drain through. And in the summer months, when it's not quite so wet out here, this tray is usually dry, or normal moisture level of soil. Right now it's just really, really wet out here because it's winter and it's raining all the time. So I'll take this tray out and just gonna move it out of the way, put it in the grass. And then this is the very bottom, which normally just has like worm tea. They call it worm tea. It's really just bacteria from the breaking down process produces liquid, and then that liquid drains down in here, and they call it worm tea because bacteria do water. It's not a very pretty name, but it isn't really tea. It isn't worm tea. Worms don't make tea. It isn't worm pee. It's just the liquid that is a natural process byproduct of breaking down food. So I put this on it, which works pretty well. As long as the water level is high enough. So what I'm gonna do now is I will empty this and empty that wet one I put in the grass. I will empty the bottom black tray because there's nothing else to be broken down really in there other than that one apple core. And then get some more food ready to go in there. Okay, so I emptied out the bottom 2 trays. I dumped out all of the water that was in there. Those are empty now. And I took about half of what was in this one out. So I left about half of what was in there just because there are worms. I want to leave some worms in there. Worms are basically self-regulating populations, so if there's more resources, then they make more. If there's less resources, they don't. They just pull back on reproduction. So as long as there's some in there, whatever resources I provide them with, they'll create more. So this is kind of what it looks like when it goes in. I have coffee grounds. I have ground up paper. This is just like junk mail. Some green tomato. So it's just kitchen scraps. And I don't even have the bag, coffee filter bag in there. So I just put this in for them. I'm gonna put this other piece back on. The top part back on. So now it's all put back together. I didn't really mention before, but each of these bins, I drilled a bunch of holes in so both water can drain out, and that's why they don't drown up in the top trays, and so that they can also migrate from one tray to the next. So there weren't very many in that not bottom tray, but the second one with really decomposed matter, because there wasn't as much food in there for them. They migrate up to the higher one where there's more food. So there's more worms in this one because there's more resources. So, in a few more days or a week or so when I have more food, I'll do the same process with this one. I'll just take the things that aren't quite broken down all the way yet, leave them in there, take about half out. That's usually what I do. I take about half out. Some of the worms come out with it, and that's okay. That doesn't really hurt anything. Like I said, I put them in my compost pile, so that's just increasing the population of worms in the compost pile, and then that just helps to break everything down faster. So I just usually store that up on top, and I use that to kind of just mix things around inside. When I'm looking to see what the population is doing, I can move everything. So that's the whole setup.